The Secretary has made 5 pillars, the broad interests of the department, and has spoken to them at length to you. And she has recently given major speeches in these categories. The one that I refer to, the CFR speech in July on counterterrorism and preventing terrorist threats from materializing. In that speech, she described sort of the twin pillars of Homeland Security, really prevention and preventing bad things from happening, but also ensuring resiliency. And really, September is the month where we focus on that second aspect of Homeland Security. Secretary Napolitano has said we have there are shared consequences in disasters, and we have shared responsibility to ensure that our communities are resilient. The Secretary in her speech at the Council on Foreign Relations talked about this notion of a shared responsibility and the different levels of community in which are part of the solution. You mentioned individuals and the public. There's also the state and local communities, federal family, and the international partnerships. And in each of those levels, there is a role to play. The challenge on the individual level is almost in some sense a cultural one. We, in our private lives, face many choices about the risks that we face. We as individuals and private citizens face health risks. So we sometimes we get insurance. Sometimes we get more insurance. Sometimes we get less insurance. We choose to work out. We choose not to work out. People make decisions every day in their lives about risk. On the broader questions that people have, I think, in many regards, had a more challenge facing in answering. Questions of, well, if I live in a flood zone, what should I do? If I live where there are forest fires, what should I do? If I live in a hurricane zone, what do I do? And as a nation, we continue to be at risk for terrorist attacks. What do I do? So I think on the first level, we must continue to communicate, educate, and raise awareness on all of these hazards, both in terms of the risks that we share, but also in terms of the steps that people can take to mitigate these risks. But we do have to be concerned about absenteeism, and the department, the federal government, and with the encouragement of the Department of Homeland Security, working with state and local governments and the private sector, we are trying to encourage folks to have their continuity of operations plans ready to go in September. That means planning for absenteeism. How do you continue to operate with a reduced workforce? How do you also limit absenteeism by ensuring that people are aware of the steps they can do to mitigate the risk of getting H1N1? Things like distributing your workforce in staggered shifts, teleworking if you telecommuting. Those types of things are part of continuity of operations plans. We at the department are doing that for our workforce. The federal government is doing that, and it is encouraged that state, local, and private sector firms do that as well.